So over the past few days, I kept seeing all these stories about Jonah Hill. I don't really know the exact story. I don't follow celebrity drama or gossip that much. I don't personally see the point in it. I tend to find that like a lot of these different celebrity drama things, it's just, I don't know, it's a waste of time. Like a lot of these dudes do stuff, or girls too. They just do all this stuff for attention. I get that's how they make their money. I get that they have to stay in the public light and all that stuff. I get it. But in general, I find it's a waste of time. And I don't really understand why people invest so much of their time into the lives of these celebrities that are more or less just normal people like the rest of us. But I'm here to do a video because it's the internet. And on the internet, everyone's supposed to give their 2 cents. So I'm giving my 2 cents. Now, I don't know the full story. I didn't do any research on it. I don't particularly care, like I said. From what I have seen, it seems like, I guess, his wife or his girlfriend or something is calling him a misogynist because he asked her to not do certain things, I guess engage in certain activities or behaviors, whatever. I'm going to say this for one. The word misogynist is overly used. It is used way too much nowadays. I feel like whenever any dude has any boundary whatsoever or has any opinion that is anti-women, it is misogynistic. At least that's what they call it. They call it misogynistic. And I genuinely think that phrase, we need to eliminate that phrase because most people, first of all, don't even know what that word means. My understanding of the word misogyny is a hatred or general disdain for women. Having an opinion that does not benefit women does not mean you hate women. It just means you have an opinion. Just in the same way as a girl, if you have an opinion that does not benefit men, that doesn't make you misandrous. It just means you have an opinion. That's fine. We can all have opinions. So that word misogyny already, I hate that word. And I feel like usually girls use that word, and this is not like an anti-female or anti-woman type of video, but I hear girls use that word a lot, misogyny. And the reason why I really dislike that word is because it's almost like it's like an instant barrier to anyone's opinion whatsoever. If you're a dude and you say like, I don't particularly like my girl wearing certain outfits, and that's his prerogative to feel that way. And I'm not saying what she wears is relevant or not relevant, or that's not the point. If he has an opinion and says, I don't like my girlfriend wearing A, B, and C, to be called a misogynist instantly shuts down that conversation and makes him look like a bad guy. And the thing that annoys me is that most dudes don't want to be a bad guy. So when he gets called a bad guy, what he does is he shuts down and he just doesn't give his opinion anymore. He doesn't want to be the bad guy, so he stops and he lets the girl do whatever she wants. And then it leads to a disaster, or maybe not, maybe it doesn't lead to a disaster. But the point is it shuts off any type of communication, which I'm completely against. So we gotta get rid of that word. That's the first thing. The word misogyny should be banned from the English language because most people don't even use it correctly. And I don't know, it's sort of just a tool to weaponize against people, specifically men, to kind of just shut them up whenever they have an opinion about anything that does not benefit women. And again, this is not an anti-women video. The reverse could also be true. I would say the exact same thing about misandry, but most men don't call women misandrous if they have an opinion against men. So I don't know, maybe more men should do that and kind of even it out, give some equality. I don't know. But that's the first thing. The second thing is I think the overall mindset behind Jonah Hill sending off those text messages, the mindset I don't think is bad. I think the execution is poor. And what I mean by this is, and I glanced at the text messages. So again, if I'm missing the story or if I'm not getting something right, feel free to leave me a comment. I didn't invest that much time into it. I'm just giving my 2 cents based on what I have seen. He sent a string of text messages basically saying, I don't like when girls do this. I don't like when girls do this. If you keep doing this, I'm bouncing or I'm bailing, whatever. I don't think it's wrong to have an opinion like that. I don't think it's wrong to have a mindset where you have a girlfriend, you might not want her to engage in certain activities. Maybe it's because it might put her in danger. Maybe because it just reflects poorly on you. Or maybe it's just outside of your comfort zone or outside of your values, or you just don't like it. That's fine. Personally, I think that's just our conversation. I think that's the more mature and healthy way to do it. I wouldn't even go about the whole sending a string of text messages. I think what I would do, and maybe this is extreme, if I were Jonah Hill, this is what I would do. I would probably just bring up to her in person, or even through the phone if in person it's not possible, because I know he's an actor. I don't know who she is, but maybe in person it's not possible. Maybe he's traveling or doing something. I'd bring it up to her and just be like, look, babe, I don't like when you do A, B, and C. I don't like when you do A, B, and C because of X, Y, Z. And I'd like it if you stop doing that, please. Like, you don't have to come across super like weak or feeble, or it doesn't have to be antagonistic either. You can just state your opinion and say why you have that opinion. This is my personal belief. But I think from that point on, once you've expressed your opinion and once you've said what you think needs to be said and you've explained why you have certain feelings or certain beliefs, if she continues to do the things that you've asked her not to do, at that point, I would just leave. Like, leave. That's it. It wouldn't be any trying to convince her. It wouldn't be any trying to persuade her. It wouldn't be any trying to meet in the middle. It depends on what it is, of course. But if it's an extreme thing and you really just don't like the behavior or the attitude or whatever as a whole, I wouldn't try to do like any in between or in the middle. I would say like, I don't like this. This is my belief on this. Please stop completely. And that's it. And if she continues, I would just leave. I'd be like, okay, the relationship is done. That's cool. I mean, no hard feelings. You don't, you like to behave in one way, and I don't agree with that way you're behaving. That's fine. I'm not going to say you can't do it, obviously, because you're a free individual who's allowed to do whatever you want. But I also don't have to take part in this relationship if that is the case. And for that reason, I'm out. You don't even have to articulate all that. But you just leaving, I think, says the message in itself. So that's kind of what I would do. I wouldn't be involved in all these text messages. I wouldn't go through all that, especially not like a whole essay. When I saw like a glance of it, it was a very long essay that people wouldn't even read. I would just leave. I'd be like, yeah, okay, relationship's done. Cool, I'm out. I'm gonna bounce. Yeah, so that's sort of my opinion on this. I did see some interviews, like just brief clips and people in like different podcasts kind of talking about it. And some people are saying, and I disagree with this because I've heard this argument before. People are saying, well, if she was one way before the relationship and you got into a relationship with her, you shouldn't expect her to change. I completely disagree with that, and I'll explain why. Most people before a relationship act in a certain way. And I'm not saying that once you get into a relationship, you should completely change the way you think and completely change your values and behaviors and attitudes. I'm not saying that. However, I do think that to a degree, once you're in a relationship, in general, there are certain things you should not do, especially when your partner vocalizes that they do not like it. Now, you can sit there and say, I don't accept your opinion on this, and I'm going to continue to do it, in which case you can go back to what I said earlier and just break up because it's not a fitting relationship. That's fine. But if you're in a relationship and someone says, and say, for example, you're a dude and you go and you meet a girl at a bar or club, and when maybe you met her at a bar and club and you didn't know that she partied as much as she actually does or as much as she did. And maybe like 2 or 3 months into the relationship, she continues to go to the club. She just goes. She doesn't even tell you. She just goes out to the club. Maybe she's hanging out with other guys. Maybe she's being super flirty with guys. If you bring up to her and say, look, babe, I don't particularly like when you're super flirty with guys. I don't like when you're kind of like touching other dudes out at the bars and clubs. I don't even like you going out to the bars and clubs that much. I don't think it's a good habit to build for the future of our family. It's fantastic or fine single behavior, but it's not family behavior. Does that make sense? And maybe I want to start a family with you. If you bring that up and she says, I don't agree, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, again, break up, that's fine. But the idea that she was one way before the relationship and she shouldn't have to change in the relationship, I think is completely absurd. I said this to someone the other day. We were having a debate about just actions in a relationship. And they were pretty much saying, well, you shouldn't expect people to change in a relationship. And I was like, well, by that logic, any dude that's been single and has been hooking up with girls, when he gets into a relationship, he should not be expected to stop hooking up with girls, by that logic. And they're like, well, that's not the same. It's like, well, how is it not the same? If she's doing certain behaviors or actions, and again, I don't know the specifics of this Jonah Hill thing, but from what I gathered, it seems like she was being flirty with other guys or maybe being a little bit too close, and Jonah Hill didn't find it, he didn't find comfort in it, which I completely get. If I or other guys were doing the exact same thing, I think many girls would have a problem with it. A lot of women would have a problem if a dude was out there, being flirty or being sexual or anything like that. Anything that would give the girl some insecurity, she'd have a problem with, and she'd vocalize it, and that's completely fine. But I think the reverse should also be allowed. If the guy has a problem with something, he should be allowed to vocalize it, and it should be listened to. He shouldn't just be disregarded, and he shouldn't, of course, be labeled a misogynist. I think that's insane. I don't know. So that's my 2 cents on this whole thing. The idea that people shouldn't change in a relationship, I think, is a bit ridiculous. Obviously, I think if everyone stayed their single selves in a relationship, I think all those relationships would be doomed to fail. Maybe there are some outlier relationships that would work out, but I think most relationships, if everyone brought their single identity into the relationship, I can't imagine it would succeed. I can't imagine if you're the kind of guy, for example, that was single, and maybe you would go out on the weekends and blow your money on like shots. You're broke every weekend, but you're fine about it because you know how much you're going to spend, and maybe you have a good job, you know how much you're going to get back. Maybe that works for you, and that's completely fine if that works for you. As a single guy, that's totally fine because you don't have anyone else to take care of but yourself. But in a relationship, I would argue that that behavior should change for the sake of the family, for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of the future goals of the 2 people or more, whatever. It's a weird, it's a different world nowadays, different lifestyles. I'm not judging. But when you are dealing with other people, sort of in a relationship type of context, your actions certainly should change to promote, the longevity of the relationship. Hopefully that all makes sense. So yeah, that's my take on it. The mindset behind what Jonah Hill did, I completely agree. I don't think it's misogynistic to have an opinion or to dissuade your girlfriend or wife or whoever she is from doing things that might, destroy the relationship. If I were him, I wouldn't go through all those text messages. I would just preemptively end the relationship myself if I found that she was being unreasonable. And obviously, of course, that means, if you bring something up and say, I don't feel comfortable about this, sure. If you want to have her meet in the middle and say, well, I'm not willing to give up everything for X, Y, and Z reasons, but I am willing to not do A, B, and C for you to keep you comfortable. And I understand that it makes you, feel vulnerable or uncomfortable, whatever. Fair enough. That's fine. I think that's part of a relationship. But to continue doing everything and justify it as if, that's just who you are as an individual, I think is ridiculous. And I don't think people should do that. One more thing before I end the video. One thing I do respect about Jonah Hill, even though the text message thing's a bit lame, I do like the idea that he vocalized boundaries. And I say this because a lot of dudes, I think, don't vocalize their boundaries. I think there's a lot of dudes who are in relationships who have girlfriends that do things that they don't agree with or things that they would discourage, but they're afraid of losing the girl, so they don't say anything and they let the girl do whatever she wants. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's fair to the guy, and I don't think he should allow himself to fall into that set of behaviors. Do you understand that? Part of me wants to give a story, but I don't want to say too much. But let's just say I knew some guys whose girlfriend would go out frequently. And when she'd go out, she was very flirty with other men. And she's openly wanted to do things with other men on numerous occasions. She said this to the guy. And the guy was very passive about it. Almost like, he wouldn't say I don't want you to, but he wouldn't discourage her from doing it. In that type of situation, he's not expressing his boundaries, because his boundaries would probably be, I imagine, I could be wrong, I'm not inside his head, so maybe he doesn't really care, but I imagine his boundaries are, no, you can't do sexual stuff with other men because we're in a monogamous relationship. I don't allow that. He should say that, and he should also, when he sets that boundary, basically give the boundary some consequence. I think that's also part of setting a boundary. If someone says, I don't like A, B, and C, and that person continues to do A, B, and C, you need to set a boundary to the point where it's like, well, if you keep doing A, B, and C, I'm leaving. I'm out. I'm done. Relationship's done. Like, no negotiation, none of that. I'm done. Some people might say, oh, well, that's a bit hardcore, or that's controlling. I don't think it's controlling. I think it's a boundary. Much in the same way, because we can flip this, much in the same way, if there were any girl out there and she didn't want her guy to be, say, non-monogamous, I don't know the exact term, I guess poly, whatever. If she didn't want her guy sleeping with other women, she'd certainly vocalize it. And if the guy continued to sleep with other women, guess what? She'd break up with him. So she's setting a boundary, which is completely fine. That's her prerogative, and she's totally within her rights to do that. And if the guy continues to break the boundary, she is totally within her rights to leave. I don't think that's a bad thing to do. Is it controlling if she does it? I would say in society, people would probably say no, it's not controlling when she does it. So the reverse should also be true. The same action should not be controlling when the guy does it. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I don't want to ramble too much in this video, but yeah, overall, I think the mindset that Jonah Hill had was pretty on point. The execution, pretty bad. I'd change that. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. Let me know if I missed anything, because again, I don't know the story that, with that much detail. Curious to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments, and be sure to like the video and subscribe for more just like this. Hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace out.